What up, world? EstablishedRich coming right back at you. I watched Rod Wave's interview with Charlamagne, and somewhere in the middle of it, I stopped looking at him like a rapper. I started listening to him like a young man who really knows what he's building.
Do you ever feel guilty for making it out when people you love didn't?
Hell no. I mean, because like this shit didn't fall out of the sky.
Mm-hmm. You work for it.
Man, we work so hard for this shit, man. Nah, I feel bad because I feel like I was so blessed to the point where like I skated so many times, you know, and I got partners who didn't get second chances, who didn't get, you know what I'm saying, older people to wrap their arms around them and teach them and guide them. But, you know, I took the hand I was dealt and I played it and I'm still playing it, you know, and I feel bad for like a lot of my friends and peers who couldn't make it to here, but that's why I always like shout that out. Like I made it where people couldn't. Like I'm a bottom boy survivor. Like
this is why I had to do my own video on his interview. Rod would say something casual, and I'd be like, "Damn, that's game right there." I already knew he could make music. I already knew he could connect with people and fill up a building. What I didn't realize was how much attention he has been paying to the business that's going on around him, and that is a completely different level of thinking. It is one thing to know how much money you made. It is another thing to start asking how much money everybody else made off you. I remember hearing Rod talk about his merchandise.
And he was kind of breaking it down to me like, no, them folks ain't, no, we don't need them no more. We can go
you
do
show
this
me
shit.
the plug. I don't,
yeah,
you know what's, you show me the plug.
You know
what's
how you
crazy?
go buy a watch and go buy a car, you can go buy your own clothes and pay these folk to print it up, pay these folk to transport it, and we gonna do that. And I went from 200,000 to 14 million just taking control of my own merch.
Instead of letting people just press up his shirts, sell the shirts, and him get a cut, he started figuring out how to press up the shirts himself. That is such a simple thing when you hear it, but most people never ask that question. They are so happy to get their piece that they never stop to ask who owns the rest of the pie. And that is what impressed me about Rod. He started looking at the money leaving his hands and saying, why can't we do that? Why can't we own that part too? Now that's when my mind went to Master P, Jay-Z, Slim, Birdman. And I'm not saying Rod has built what those men have built. I'm saying he is asking some of the same questions that eventually turned an artist into something much bigger than just an artist. Master P was always thinking, why do I need to give somebody else this part of my business? Jay-Z always understood that being on the poster don't mean you making the most money. Rod is figuring that out while he is still young enough to know what to do with the information. And he has an advantage that those guys didn't have because he grew up in a digital era. He understands what it means to have millions of people directly connected to you. Once you understand that those people are not just fans, but customers, that changed looking at Rod different. Because now he is talking about concerts, but he ain't talking about what he gets paid to walk on stage. This man started out as being the person somebody else booked for the show. Now he's talking about being on the promotion side with Kanye West at SoFi Stadium. Man, that's a different table. Now you're not just saying how much are y'all paying Rod Wave. You learning how the people who pay Rod Wave make their money. That's the part I want you young artists to hear. The goal can't always be to get a bigger performance fee. Sometimes the real move is in learning the business that is able to pay you that performance fee in the first place. And when you start promoting your own shows, that means you are taking on more of the risk too. Everything ain't just extra money and high fives. If that show don't work, you're gonna lose money. And that's exactly why I respect it. He betting on himself. You can't keep saying you want ownership and then be scared when you got to put up your own bread. Rod seems to understand it. He ain't just trying to own the good part. He is putting himself in a position to learn the part where you can win or lose. And that is actually how you learn business. That Kanye West part stood out to me because this ain't some little show. We talking about stadium business. So now I'm watching a young man who made his name singing about pain, learning how a stadium show gets put together. That is a hell of a transition when you think about it. And I like that he don't come off like he trying to preach or impress you. That may be what makes the message hit harder. He ain't screaming, I'm a mogul, I'm a boss. He is just telling you what he's been working on, and you are sitting there realizing, damn, this dude is building something.
I feel like I'm Rod Wave once out the year. And when it's time to drop an album, do a tour, then I'm back to, you know what I'm saying, normal living. It really don't really hit me until it's time to drop albums or do tours or do press runs where I actually like remember who I am, you feel what I'm saying? Like, because like throughout the year I'm just like normal, you know, especially like this chapter that I'm on,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, like building businesses and getting deeper into the business and just like building companies and networking and building relationships. That's what I'm doing like 300 days out of the year. You know what I'm saying? And the other 65 is like straight rock and roll. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
One of the biggest things in this interview had nothing to do with ownership, money, or concerts. It was when Rod started talking about how he only has to be Rod Wave 65 days out of the year. The other 300 days, he gets to live a normal life. That might have been the most important thing he said. Do you know how many people get famous and never figure that part out? They become the character 365 days a year until they don't even know who they are no more. Every day they have to be seen. Every day somebody has to see what car they driving, what club they at, or how much money they got on them. Rod is simply saying, I can go do my job, give the people what they want, handle my business, and then go back home and chill. And that is why I think his career does not depend on him constantly being in people's face. His music does the work. He don't need to turn his whole life into content to remind people that Rod Wave exists. When the music drops, his people show up. That's power. And think about how much clearer your mind can be when you are not performing your success for strangers every day. Now you actually have time to think about what to build next. You can think about a touring company. You can think about a film company. You can think about merchandise. You can actually run the business instead of trying to look like a businessman on Instagram. That's something a lot of us need to learn, not just rappers. Sometimes the people who are quiet are not doing less. They are quiet because they are busy working. And that's what I took from this Rod Wave interview. He don't seem obsessed with looking important. He seems more interested in making sure the things around him actually work.
Go through stuff, go through things. Like, everybody problems is, you know what I'm saying, case by case, but it's all normal. Like, it's not pain, it's not sad, it's normal, it's reality. I feel like the world is so stuck on the internet. Everybody living these fake, perfect lives. All these people living this fake fairy tale. You take 65 pictures, but you only post 3 of them.
Listen, Rod has made some mistakes. He's had some situations where you look at him and say, come on, man. You are too smart and you have too much going on to keep putting yourself around certain things. But I also don't see a pattern where his whole career is one thing after another. We all make bad decisions. The question is whether you keep repeating them or do you change your behavior? And when I listened to this interview, I heard somebody who sounds like he's learning. That impresses me more than somebody sitting there acting like they never fucked up. Rod don't have to be perfect for me to recognize that his business mind is serious. Both things can be true at the same time. And that's why I really wanted to spread this interview, because I think there are young artists who will copy Rod's melodies before they copy his business blueprint. They're going to study how he sings, how he dresses, and how he writes songs before they study how he handles money. That is ass backwards. If you really admire somebody's success, don't just copy the part that made them famous. Pay attention to the part that kept them wealthy after the fame slowed down. And that is what I heard Rod Wave talking about. He is looking at touring. He is looking at merchandise. He is looking at film. He is looking at how much of his own business he can bring inside his own house. Not because it sounds good to say you own something, but because every piece you understand makes you less dependent on somebody else. That's why I gotta call him a young mogul. Not because he got money. It's a lot of y'all with rap money. I call him that because he is thinking about what the money can build. That's the part that reminds me of a young Master P or Jay-Z. Not their accomplishments, but his mindset. And Rod had something they didn't have when they was coming up. He can watch their mistakes, study their wins, and then apply all that information to a digital business model that didn't exist when they came up. That is why this generation should actually be building bigger than the last generation. The information is sitting right there in your hands. And Rod seems like one of the young artists who's actually paying attention. The thing I respect most is he don't sound like he's already arrived. He sounds like he's still trying to get somewhere. He is still asking questions, still learning how different parts of the business work, still looking around and saying, why are we paying somebody else to do this? That question right there can change a family. And then he has enough sense to understand that none of this means anything if you can't enjoy life. So I'm gonna take y'all out like this. I already respected his music. Now I respect the way he is looking at his future. Because he is not just asking how long can he stay hot. He is building things that will still exist when he no longer wants to make records. And that is the difference between somebody having a great run and somebody using a great run to build a great life. Rod Wave may only want to be Rod Wave 65 days a year, but the business he is building will work all 365. Go check out Charlamagne and Rod Wave's interview. Like, comment, subscribe, Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.